It all began with a voice that felt like comfort, a promise whispered under soft lights. You have no idea how much I love you. I think about you every single moment. Elliot's words were like honey sweet, soothing, and just believable enough to feel safe. But safety can be an illusion when it's built on desire, not love. Elliot wasn't speaking to his wife, though. He was speaking to someone else, to Lena, the woman he claimed was his future, not because of who she was, but because of what she had. Wealth. I'll marry Isabelle first, he whispered. I'll gain her trust, transfer everything to my name, and then we'll be free, Lena. You and me. Forever. And Lena, she hesitated. She feared one thing. What if you start to care about her? Elliot laughed gently. Impossible. You are my only destination. But intentions, once set in motion, take on a life of their own. Isabelle was not naive, but she was lonely. After losing her husband to a long illness, she spent years in quiet grief, never expecting to feel again. Until Elliot. He entered her life like spring after winter, bringing warmth, presence, and the sense that maybe, just maybe, she was allowed to smile again. I feel lucky to have found you, she would say. And Elliot, he would smile back, hold her hand, and speak words rehearsed in his mind like lines from a well-written play. There's no one else in my life but you. You are my first and last love. And Isabelle believed him, because she wanted to. And because people who are kind often expect kindness in return. The days passed with small gestures, her cooking his favorite meals, him pretending to be moved. She transferred money to help him start his business. Not once, not twice, but again and again. $10,000, $100,000. She even sold a piece of property, something her late husband had left behind, because Elliot said he needed the money quickly. It's temporary, he said. Once the business grows, we'll live like royalty. She smiled. It's not about the money. And she meant it, but Elliot, he didn't even flinch. Behind her back, he whispered to Lena, just wait and see. One by one, I'll take it all. It started with small things. Late-night phone calls that ended the moment she walked into the room. Whispers he tried to disguise as business deals. Moments when he smiled at his phone more than he smiled at her. And then there was Anna, a name spoken once, in passing, with a hint of familiarity. Who's that? Isabelle had asked. Oh, just a friend. But her heart knew something wasn't right. Love, when it's real, calms the soul, but hers felt uneasy. One afternoon, Isabelle went shopping with Elliot, or so she thought. While browsing through clothes, a woman approached them. Jack, Isabelle turned to see the woman smiling, confident, elegant. This is Anna, an old friend, Elliot stammered. But Isabelle felt the chill behind that smile, a silence too loud to ignore. Later that night, her heart asked the questions her mouth couldn't, and she watched, listened, noticed. The late-night walks, the muted calls, the moments he wasn't fully there. She started piecing it together. Truth doesn't always come as a scream. Sometimes it arrives quietly in a moment of stillness. She didn't confront him right away. Not yet. She waited. She observed. And in that waiting, something awakened within her. A whisper, gentle but steady. You deserve better. One evening, she overheard a phone conversation. Just a little more patience. She's almost ready to sell another property. The voice wasn't meant for her, but it shattered the last wall holding her hope. And that night, Isabelle didn't cry. She sat in silence. She let truth pour in like cold rain, and she allowed herself to stop pretending. The next morning, she brewed tea with steady hands. When Elliot joined her, she said gently, I know about Anna. His face froze. He tried to deflect, to redirect, but she didn't waver. I believed you, she said softly. I gave you everything, not just money, but trust, love, my future. He looked down, ashamed, or simply caught. She didn't ask. She didn't scream. She didn't break. She stood up, walked to the door, and said the words that would change her life. You're free to go, but I'm free too. And she closed the door behind him. Grief didn't vanish overnight. The house still held his scent. The dishes still sat where he left them. But slowly, gently, Isabelle reclaimed her space. She gave away the clothes he left behind. She changed the curtains. She played soft music again. And she allowed herself moments of stillness, not the kind laced with fear, but the kind that felt like peace. Days later, Elliot met with Lena. He transferred more money, smiled with pride, but Lena was quiet. You don't get it, she said. I was never waiting for you. I was using you. And with that, she disappeared, taking everything. He was left with nothing. No love, no money, no plan. He returned to Isabelle's home, begged for forgiveness. But she had already moved on from him, from the lies, from the version of herself that once believed she didn't deserve more. Sometimes healing doesn't feel heroic. It feels quiet, small, like sipping tea in the morning light, like breathing deeply for the first time in days, like folding your laundry with no one to impress. Isabelle still missed the version of herself who believed in magic, but she didn't regret who she had become, because pain didn't destroy her. It revealed her strength. One day, sitting at her kitchen table, Isabelle looked out the window. The garden she planted was blooming. She thought of Elliot not with bitterness, but as a lesson. And she thought of herself not as a victim, but as someone who chose truth over comfort. She whispered aloud, You played with my heart, but I built it back, stronger, wiser, and still capable of love. She stood up, walked outside, and let the sun kiss her face. Because that's what survival looks like. That's what healing becomes. A quiet declaration. I choose myself now, and that is enough. After Lena disappeared, Elliot was left with silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that screams. He tried to call her. No answer. He messaged again and again. Blocked. He checked his account. Empty. He sat in his apartment, cold, dim, and unfamiliar, surrounded by expensive things, that weren't his anymore. The lies had bought him comfort, briefly, but comfort is hollow when it's built on betrayal. For the first time in months, Elliot looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the man staring back. He wasn't the clever one anymore, not the manipulator, not the mastermind, just a man who had gambled with people's hearts and lost. He thought of Isabelle, how she had trusted him without question, how her eyes lit up at the smallest kindness. He remembered the way she placed a cup of tea next to him with both hands, the way she looked at him like he mattered. And then he remembered what he did to her. The ache of guilt settled in, but guilt doesn't undo the past. It just lingers. He opened his phone and typed, "I'm sorry," but he didn't send it, because some things, once broken, don't need a reply. Isabelle didn't just move on. She rebuilt. She started small. A pottery class on Sundays, volunteering at the library once a week, dinners with her sister every other Friday. She changed the way she dressed, not to impress, but to feel alive. She painted the bedroom in soft colors, put fresh flowers on the dining table, and slowly, day by day, she began to laugh again. Not the forced kind, the real kind, the kind that bubbles up from within. One morning, she passed a mirror and caught her own reflection. For the first time in years, she smiled, not because someone loved her, but because she loved herself. Months later, on a quiet afternoon, there was a knock at the door. She opened it to find Elliot standing there, his shoulders slouched, his face pale. "I came to say I'm sorry." She looked at him, not with anger, not with softness, but with clarity. "I know," she said. He waited, perhaps hoping for forgiveness, or a conversation, or something. But she only added, "I forgave you a long time ago. But that doesn't mean I want you back in my life." He looked down. "I lost everything." She nodded. "I lost myself once. That was worse." And she gently closed the door, not out of cruelty, but out of love for herself. Isabelle didn't tell many people what had happened. Some wounds don't need to be shared to be healed. She kept living. She planted a small lemon tree in the garden. It took months before it bore fruit, but one day it did. And as she picked the first lemon, she smiled, not because life was perfect, but because life was hers again. The seasons changed. New people came and went. Some brought laughter, some stayed, but she never rushed. Because once you've survived heartbreak, you learn to listen to your own heartbeat first. Maybe you've trusted the wrong person. Maybe you gave your all to someone who never planned to give anything back. Maybe you stayed too long, hoping they'd change. Maybe you're still holding on. Let go. Not because you're weak, but because you deserve peace. You deserve a love that doesn't need to be earned with pain. You deserve mornings without worry, conversations without fear. You deserve to trust again, especially yourself. Elliot faded into the past. A name, a memory, a scar that no longer hurt. Isabelle lived on, not like a woman broken, but like a woman who chose herself. She didn't need a grand love story, because the story she wrote for herself was enough. Healing is not loud. Sometimes it's as simple as pouring tea, lighting a candle, sleeping through the night without tears. She didn't just survive, she came home to herself. And if you're listening now, wondering if you can do the same, you can. You already started. Because you're here, because you're choosing peace, because you're remembering